it's me-self. And today we're gonna be making a cake. We're actually gonna be making my birthday cake. I'm making it myself. It's gonna be an Oreo cake. Well, it's actually gonna be a vanilla cake with Oreo frosting, but we're calling it an Oreo cake because usually people do chocolate cake, but I prefer vanilla cake. So here we are. I'm gonna be using my classic vanilla cake recipe, which I don't think I've actually shown on this channel, so that's great. As per usual, I will be wearing an apron because I'm a mess. The cake I'm actually making 2 cakes, and I'm like stacking them. These can be of any size. I don't actually know what measurement this is. So it's like a 28 centimeter pan. So I've already made one of the cakes, and I'm gonna be showing you how to make basically the exact same one. So I've already prepped my pan. They're both the same size, it's just different. This one's silicone. Basically just butter and then flour, and then you dust it off. And I put parchment paper because I really don't need my cake to stick. Let's get onto the actual cake. So it's a pretty basic vanilla cake recipe. It's not the best for the kind of cake I'm doing, which is I'm stacking them, because it does round off a little bit. But that's okay. The taste is nice, the texture is lovely. I think it works. So I have my measuring balance here, and I'm just gonna take this bowl right away. Use any bowl. And right here, I'm gonna measure 200 grams of butter. Let me check the recipe. Yeah, 200 grams of butter. This is unsalted butter. The recipe doesn't call for any salt at all, the vanilla cake. But if you want to add a pinch of salt, go ahead. One more thing, wash your hands. Wait a second. There, now that our hands are washed, now we can start. Okay, it's preferable for the butter to be room temperature. Once we have our 200 grams of butter, very simple, we're gonna get 2 cups of sugar. Now, depending on whether you plan on adding frosting or not, you might wanna add less or more sugar. The recipe's pretty forgiving, but you don't wanna be too drastic with any changes. So I've added 1.5 cups of sugar instead of 2 cups. Here we are. Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. Yep, that's good. And you're just gonna add that right back to the bowl. Now that we have all that, you're just gonna cream these. Not until fluffy, just until combined. So this is what your sugar butter mixture should be looking like. It's well combined, it's not fluffy or anything, it's just right there. So yeah, that's what it should look like. Next up, we're gonna scrape down the sides. You wanna make sure you don't have any big clumps of sugar or butter. Now that that's well mixed, next is to add the eggs. Now at this point, you wanna preheat your oven. Our oven is gonna be at 175 degrees Celsius or 350 Fahrenheit. So one thing I was always taught baking as a kid was to crack your eggs in a separate bowl. I don't always listen to this, I'll be honest. I rarely listen to this. But since I want this cake to turn out well, excuse me, we're gonna have it on low. On my KitchenAid, it's on a 1. It's actually in between the 1 and 2, so basically the lowest setting you can have. And you're gonna add an egg, have it mix, crack the next, have it mix. You know, it's 1 by 1. It's not very well mixed right now. Let me show you what it's looking at. It's looking quite chunky, really. Okay, so this is what my egg butter sugar mixture looks like. I've added 4 eggs in total. I'm just gonna scrape down the sides. It's kind of difficult doing this one-handed, but because you can see very clearly that at the bottom there is some butter and sugar that hasn't been mixed in with the eggs. That's okay, you just scrape down and mix again. This is what it should look like. It still has a few bits of butter and sugar, but nothing too huge, and that's what we want. I have the same measuring cup that I used before, and to here we're gonna measure out 1 cup of milk. And then to the milk, the 1 cup of milk, I'm gonna add, I think it's a teaspoon of vanilla. I use a capful, but it's around 1 teaspoon to 2 teaspoons. But really, it's a vanilla cake. Put as much vanilla as you want. And then in a much bigger measuring cup, as you may see, this is much bigger. Here, I'm gonna measure out 3 cups of self-rising flour. Has to be self-rising. If you don't have self-rising flour, you can use normal flour and add like a teaspoon of baking powder. Google the ratio of baking powder to flour, but I have self-rising flour. It's actually cake flour, but okay, there we go. That's 3 cups. Set that aside. And I also have just a normal spoon here, which is gonna help me now. Now, we have our flour, self-rising flour, and our milk. And what we're gonna do is, what I usually do is about 3 tablespoons flour, a little chorrito. ¿Cómo se dice chorrito? Yep, no, they're not listening. 3 tablespoons of flour and then a drip of milk. 3 tablespoons of flour, a drip of milk. You wanna end up with the flour. Anyways, let's continue. Just mixing on low for now. Once you've added in your flour and milk, you should end up with a very smooth looking batter. Right now I'm scraping down the sides. You know how important that can be. We do not want some random chunk of butter and sugar anywhere, or flour. So we want it to be nice and well mixed in. And let's just mix one last time. We now have a smooth vanilla a smooth vanilla batter. You can see now it's a super smooth, silky soft batter. And now we're gonna transfer it onto our pan. Okay, here you can see. And I'm just gonna pour it all in. This recipe is perfect for a 27 centimeter pan, just like this one. Then you're just gonna pour that in. Once that's all in, oof, that's a heavy. Just smooth it out a little. This cake batter recipe can also be used for vanilla cupcakes if that's what you want to do, or if you have any leftover batter. It's great for cupcakes. The cooking time obviously changes. With cupcakes, it's around 25 minutes. And with a cake this size, it's an hour. But it can vary 45 minutes to an hour. I'm gonna let that bake now, and I'll check back with you guys in an hour. Okie dokes, cake is out of the oven. The other one has been cooling this whole time. I'm just gonna move it. And while they are cooling, Nutella, por favor, I'm gonna be making the frosting. So I've screenshotted the recipe that I'm gonna use. I'm gonna use 1.5 cups of butter and 4 cups of sugar, which is a lot.
Hello, I'm in the video.
Okay, we're getting same bowl that I've washed now. And the battery's low. Hold on, let me change the battery. Okay.
Queridos amigos.
No. The reason I'm using, excuse me, Amelia. The reason I'm using paper. Say hello. We're gonna start with the Oreos. I have a bunch of Oreos here. I think I have like 28 in total. You don't need 28 Oreos. Hello. We're gonna process these Oreos. It depends on whether you want to pipe the frosting or not. If you are planning on it, I would recommend using a food processor. I can't seem to find the larger one. ¿Se pueden callar? No. Okay, I'm gonna pulverize 8 first because it's small. There we go. Now it should just be like a thin, muddy kind of texture. So this is the kind of texture you should get. If you're not planning on piping it, it can be a little bit thicker. Okay, now that I've pulverized my 14 Oreos, we now have to measure out some butter. Okay, once we've measured out our butter, mix this for a good 4 minutes, I'd say. Just while the butter is creaming, I'm gonna be measuring out 4 cups of sugar. So it's very, very, very creamy. So this is what the butter is looking like. It's, you know, pretty pale. It's not white because, I mean, you can see the comparison. It's definitely like yellow, but it's pretty pale, light, fluffy. And this was whipping it, what, 5-6 minutes and on high speed. So I've decided to go down to 3.5 cups instead of 4, because I find 4 might be very overpowering. I'm just gonna mix it on low speed. It's looking very, very creamy. I'm just gonna try it a little. I'm just gonna whip it a little bit more to get some more air in, and then I'm gonna add the Oreos in. So this is what my frosting is looking like. As you can see, it's very light, very fluffy, very sweet as well. And I'm just gonna add a few tablespoons of milk and then the Oreos. Is it good? I need the Oreo. Can you? I'm just gonna add a little drizzle of milk. It's definitely a good consistency for piping, but since we're gonna be adding the Oreos, I don't want it to be too thick either. And now I'm just gonna add all the Oreos in at once. That's just, there we go. Ooh, it looked good. Here is what the frosting is looking like. It's very good, very Oreo-y. I know there's like a bit of like unmixed vanilla there, but that's fine. And yeah, all good. And then I'm gonna transfer this to a piping bag. Yeah, my cake is still warm, so I can't pipe it just yet. I'm gonna put it in the fridge, and I'll check back in with you later. Okay, so while my cakes are cooling, I'm gonna make the ganache drip. You basically just want equal parts of heavy cream and chocolate. And we're gonna microwave for about a minute. It just depends on your microwave, until it's all melted. Just start leveling my cakes. Really, of all foods. Okay, I've leveled it, and obviously with this cake recipe specifically, you're losing like a good half of the cake just by leveling it. That's okay, since, I mean, it's already huge. I'm gonna do the same thing with the other cake, and I'll get back. Sorry, hold on. Okay, I've leveled my cakes, so now we're gonna assemble, finally. I have some ganache here. It's actually... Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We have our first... Ay, caca, no se ve. Caca, como mueve esta cosa. Okay, we have our first cake here, and then we have our Oreo buttercream. So we're just gonna pipe a nice tube all around. Okay, and then we're gonna fill this, not with a bunch of ganache, because the ganache is already really dark, so I don't want people to be like, this is actually not... This video is already pretty messy, so it's no surprise that I did not film an outro. So here I am. Here is the outro. I hope you guys enjoyed this pretty messy, quite different video, even though I bake pretty often. I'm not gonna lie, there are parts where I was screaming at my siblings. I did not insert those in the video because it's really embarrassing. But yeah, it was more of a reality TV show kind of vibe than an actual YouTube video. I hope you guys have a nice laugh. Or had a nice laugh, because you've already watched the video. Yeah, thanks for watching. Oh, and like and subscribe if you want to. Not because I'm telling you to, just because you want to, because